Good evening, explorers, and welcome to the zone.
Explorer log 43-10A. I woke up to a strongly worded message from the UMPSC this morning. I'm getting reprimanded. What am I getting reprimanded for? Here, let me just show you. I wrote it on my notes here. That's the wrong thing. Here we go. Gross misallocation of committee resources not related to radius research. There's any explorers out there that have been wondering why the commissary hasn't been stocked with toilet paper in about a week? My apologies. Anyway, as a result of this reprimand, I am being directed to conduct actual scientific research out here in the zone. So, here is my hypothesis. You know how, some particles will behave differently whether or not they're being observed, or at least that's what happened to that one experiment? I forget the one. You know the one. So basically, that's how I think propane tanks work, right? Because if you're looking at them and they explode, they don't kill you. But if you're not looking at them and they explode, but you're the cause of why it exploded, then it always kills you. 100% of the time. So what I'm here to test to see if the propane tank, if it's all the way up, by the way, this is a camera feed from Perchorsk. We're in Pobeda in some bunker right now. I'm wondering what's going to happen if I remote detonate it from here while it's unobserved. Got my remote detonator right here. We're going to go ahead and we're going to remote detonate that. Well, it's, Well, that's mildly Well, the good news is at least my detonator did.
Where we're going to be taking a deep dive into the Perchorsk exclusion zone and what lies within it. Today we are looking at the many anomalies that you can encounter while out on expedition. Let's get into it. Unlike the entities of the radius, anomalies aren't actively out to kill you, they're just passively out to kill you. They are environmental hazards that are indifferent to your presence, but are still deadly nonetheless if you make contact with them. They usually manifest in large clusters outdoors, but some have other environmental preferences like we're about to get into. First up is the most basic and common of the anomalies, the Distortion. They cover an area a few meters in diameter and can be identified in one of two ways. Either by the geometric, semi-transparent blue shape that appears when interacted with, or by the shimmering air that can be seen at its core, almost like an invisible fire. When contact is made with a distortion, it will literally start to rearrange and, distort whatever's within its field of effect. This is not conducive to your explorer's bodily functions and will deal 10 damage every second that you are inside of it. This is one of the lowering damage anomalies, so fortunately running into one is usually just a slap on the wrist, which if you're like me and really need an updated prescription for your glasses, happens a lot. Distortions can be found damn near everywhere, mostly outdoors, but occasionally you'll find them in tighter spots like the construction site basement. They can be safely detected with probes. Overall, they pose a relatively low threat. Oh, and the gas mask is effective in reducing your damage taken from them. Next is the Reflector anomaly. These are almost as common as distortions, usually appearing alongside them. They can be identified by the pulsing white field they emit every few seconds and the loud whooshing noise that they also emit while pulsing. When contact is made, it will send whatever it touched flying back with great force. When this happens to you, it will send you flying back and deal 30 damage flat, which armor can actually reduce. When an object makes contact, however, it will be shotgunned back in a spread like a shotgun, which usually takes the form of 6 beams of light. Each one of those beams deals 15 damage each for a potential total of 90, although you would have to be pretty unlucky for that to happen. Also, the Reflector doesn't actually send objects back at you, rather the object sticks to it and just rotates around it before falling off onto the ground, which I thought was rather humorous when I noticed it. Reflectors manifest similarly to distortions, especially in anomaly fields, making it so that you can't just throw probes willy-nilly without some risk. The most dangerous property about them, however, is their knockback effect. Under the right circumstances, you can get thrown reflector to reflector like a 3D pinball machine. And at that point, there's not a whole lot you can do to stop it. Overall though, While I would say these are more dangerous, they are also easily detectable. Moving on, we have the black grass anomaly. Black grass looks exactly as the name implies, appearing exclusively in dark buildings and cramped spaces. The grass is a pretty big step up in danger for explorers, dealing around 33 damage per second. Basically, it can kill you in exactly 3 seconds if you remain in contact with it. Unlike the previously mentioned anomalies though, grass can be countered by shining a light onto it, which will cause it to recede for a brief moment, allowing safe passage. Brighter flashlights like the regular handheld flashlight and rifle light are more efficient at doing so. Overall, while it's deadly, it's easily detected and countered. Next, we are looking at the gas or haze anomaly. It manifests as a bright green gas cloud with white streaks that fade in and out inside of it. This is the only anomaly that can either be stationary or move along a set path. It deals 7 to 8 damage per second, killing you in 13 seconds of continuous exposure. However, it can be negated entirely with the use of a gas mask. Haze appears mostly in and around major anomaly fields, but can also be found in some oddball spots in Pobeda Factory and Perchorsk Castle. Overall, as long as you've got a gas mask, it shouldn't be a concern. Moving on, we have the shock or electric anomaly, a fan favorite. It can be identified by the loud electric crackling noise it makes, along with some small visual sparks at its core, though those can be hard to spot. The only way to visualize its area of effect is to trigger it with probes, at which point it will zap the shit out of whatever dared to enter its area of influence. Shock anomalies have a few interesting behaviors. Firstly, if you are hit, it will deal a flat 60 damage to you, and can shock you again after a 3-second cooldown. If you are holding something in your hand, then the electric arc can sometimes hit that instead of you directly. This will make you drop whatever you are holding, and you will take 15 damage instead of the full 60. Any items that are dropped within the anomaly cannot be force grabbed. So here's a common situation. You're running through somewhere with your gun out, you get shocked, and your gun drops. What's the best way to get it back? You can spam probes as you reach for it. More than likely, one of your many probes will take the hit. You can even straight up walk through electric anomalies using this method. Just know that you can still get shocked, especially if you hang out inside of it for too long. You also have to watch out for overlapping shock anomalies. Option 2, you can actually disable shocks with grenades. You will likely, however, damage your weapon in the process. Still good for clearing them out though. One last detail is that it only shocks objects that are in motion. So anything that isn't moving, including you, won't get shocked. Not particularly useful information, but something neat I noticed while testing. Overall, these guys can be a real pain in the ass, especially in clusters, so be sure to be liberal with your probes while around them. Next up is the Stomper anomaly. It can be identified by the loud thumping noise it emits and the clouds of dust it kicks up. Interestingly, it leaves behind handprints instead of the expected footprints. As it walks by, it will literally shake the ground. If it comes in contact with an explorer, it will deal a variable amount of damage based on how close you are to the center of the stomp. The highest amount of damage I got it to do while testing was a little over 90. But I think if you got stepped on dead center, it could potentially one-shot you. Also, the Stomper doesn't deal damage to just you, but any equipment that you have on you that isn't in your backpack. This can become an issue if, for example, you carry grenades in your pouch like I used to. Overall, while potentially deadly, these are easily detectable and avoidable. Just watch out for the collateral damage they can cause. Moving on, we have the web anomaly. It can be identified by the black vines that it produces. They manifest primarily in and around trees or large buildings. These are what I consider one of the more annoying anomalies, as they are incredibly easy to walk into, especially while traveling at night through Balaki. When you come into contact, you will take a flat 75 damage over 15 seconds regardless of how long you are touching it. You can even walk in and out of it and it won't change how much damage you take or how long for. The only way to take more damage in the same 15-second window is if you just so happen to walk through two completely separate webs, at which point the damage will stack. Overall though, as long as you're paying attention on your nightly strolls with a flashlight, you should be able to easily avoid these. Now let's discuss the outlier, the Rift. It can be identified as a black, fractured blob floating above the ground. They emit a constant hum and occasionally make a loud droning noise. Unlike other anomalies, they don't pose a threat to explorers directly. Rather, they have the ability to summon entities in place of already slain ones. Basically, it's a respawner, and therefore should be destroyed as soon as possible. Upon death, it will drop a shard, which can be sold. Alternatively, they can also drop a broken shard, which is needed for the Metastasis side mission. I tested a rift in every region and found that they can respawn entities once every 3 minutes. They are almost always located in mission critical locations and areas with a lot of loot. They are also detectable with your artifact detector, which can speed up the process of finding and eliminating them. Finally, we have the Scythe anomaly. It can be identified by the shockwave-like rings it emits from its center that cover a wide area. It moves slowly, but as it reaches its maximum size, it rapidly shrinks back down and disappears for a brief moment, before expanding again. These only seem to manifest up in high places, usually out of reach for explorers. This makes them little more than set dressing in most situations. The only place they are interactable in is on these 2 hills in the middle of Pobeda. They are to be avoided, however, as touching the expanding rings is certain death. Technically, it's not an instant kill, but it does damage so fast, it might as well be. These were a far bigger threat in the 1.0 version, as the train yard was absolutely infested with them.
Wait, no.
I honestly think they should have gotten more implementation in 2.0. Overall, even though they are incredibly dangerous, you're just never going to find yourself in a situation where you need to worry about them. Now we are onto the bonus entries that existed in 1.0 but were cut for 2.0. First is the Sigil anomaly. It can be identified by white circles on the ground. When entered, your screen will turn black and white and a loud scream will be emitted. It also slows you down so that it takes longer to get out than it does to get in. It doesn't deal any damage to you, but it will attract any entities that may be nearby. Now, when I first played this game way back before even the full 1.0 release, this thing was just a death sentence. Every mimic and slider on the map was on its way to kick your ass, and there wasn't shit you could do about it besides hide in a bathroom with your gun pointed out the door, praying you get an occasional break to reload. However, this anomaly was cut from the game going into 2.0. And the last one for today is the green goo anomaly. It is located in only one location, the dorms. I was once told that it was a reference to a roadside picnic, or maybe the original Stalker film, although I couldn't find any information directly relating to that. In ITR, this stuff does absolutely nothing though. And I think that about does it. The anomalies of Perchorsk are a curiosity to say the least. Hopefully in the sequel we see more interesting examples of how the Radius can twist reality into ways that are physically hazardous to our health. Until next time, explorers.